Hey everyone, this is Gleb Bakhmutov, and today I want to revisit on before unload event handler in your Cypress tests. So imagine you have a simple page, some scripts, some buttons, and your application code includes the following. Before unload handler, depending on if a page maybe has a form that the user has updated and you want to prevent the page from being unloaded right away, maybe the user needs to save data, of a form in progress. And the way you do this in this case is by taking the event object that you receive in the handler and you call prevent default, which pops the dialog asking the user, do you really want to leave the page? So what happens in our tests? How can we confirm that the application, depending on, let's say, the form or the page or the state, actually calls this prevent default and pops the browser, do you want to leave a page dialog? We might try to write a test like this. So we're going to the page, we call set reload, and then we need to add a couple of things. So let's look at the browser really quickly and what it does in this case. So I have Cypress running here, and right now nothing happens. So first things first, why don't we see a dialog? Open the DevTools and notice the problem. Chrome browsers right now don't allow you to show before unload if a user has not interacted with their page. And that's a security measure so that the spam cannot keep popping a pop-up preventing you from navigating away from the page. So we can avoid this by doing the following in our spec. So let me just move this to the left and I'll move it to the right. And before we reload, we can interact with the page. For example, if there is a button click, I can use real click from Cypress real events. And now notice we actually see the problem, right? We can see that it's blocked because it actually shows the dialog. And to see this better, let me switch to Chrome browser. So right now I'm in Chrome and this is the dialog that the application pops up because it calls event prevent default. So yeah, reload. All right, so how do we prevent this pop-up and continue the test and confirm that this method was really called? Well, if you think about what is this before unload event, it's an object, an instance of this before unload event browser class, and the prevent default is a method on the prototype. It's like another parent object linked to the event instance. So we can do the following in our test. And I love doing before each where I set up everything for my test that I might need. I'm gonna say sci on, and instead of looking at the unload event, because it's kind of too late, I'll do before load. So this happens when the browser creates a window object, but before any application code runs. And I'm just gonna show you that this happens every time you visit the page or load the page or navigate from one page to another because it actually recreates the window object. So if I open the DevTools and I rerun the test, notice it actually calls that window before load event handler in my test twice. All right, so what can we do? We can say, okay, so this window has before unload event, okay? And I'm gonna stop it, and now notice we did not see the pop-up because instead of calling the real prototype prevent default, we stopped it. So the application is calling the method, but the method is a Cypress stub. Now let's confirm that this has happened, and we can, because we got the alias, so we can say should have been called once. Now this fails, and it fails for a reason. Remember, in our test, we are stubbing twice, right? Every time a window object is created, which happens on a visit or reload, this is called. And so if I stubbed it in the first instance of my window on the first visit, and then we're trying to reload, well, that prevent default stub has been called. And then the window is recreated, so we are calling this again, recreating the stub, and put it under the same alias. So we're kind of overriding it. So what I like to do is to create a single stub and just attach it every time to the prototype prevent default method. And the way we can do this is by doing the following. So I'll say stub, and I'll just create one, and I'll give it an alias, prevent default. And now instead of overwriting and again, I can say, well, I'm gonna stub it and I'm gonna call fake, and I'm just gonna call the stub that I created just once. Okay, so what happens? Every time a window is created or recreated on visit, on reload, we're gonna stub the before unload event prototype prevent default method, and we're gonna just call a function we created just once. And so the stub continues existing, and we can say has been called. We can say right here should not have been called, right? And maybe if we reload again, then actually we can make it stronger. We can say called once, called twice. Let's see how this works. Perfect. So this is a very nice way of dealing with application code that pops the dialog depending on the state of the app and prevents the browser from continuing. You might actually notice Cypress test timing out because the browser gets blocked by the pop-up. And not only we stubbed it, we actually stubbed it with a single stub. Well, we're stubbing multiple times, but we call the same stub function. And we can use that stub to verify how many times that method was called, depending on the circumstances. Okay, you'll find this solution and a couple other solutions to the same problem of on before unload event handling in Cypress. In a blog post, I'm going to put a link to that blog post in the description of this video.